Something like a state farm. So here's an example of a site, and I believe it's Bolivia. It's Cochabamba on the eastern slope of the Andes, and this was an agricultural community, and it was a state farm. So it was a plantation where they grew primarily maize, and again, maize very important because it was used to make chicha, which was used for all sorts of ceremonies. So in this process of the meat mug, let's say somewhere in the north, they had conquered a group who were not necessarily going down quietly, so to speak. So they would just pack up people and move them down to the south, taking them out of their familiar area, putting them in an unfamiliar area, away from all of their support systems, helps to keep them in line. The Inca sacrificed. They venerated mountains. They believed that the mountains were responsible for bringing rains and water, and in a way they were, because of course the melt off from snows, and it did block the rains from the Pacifics, and it only rained up there in the top at the mountains and the higher altitudes, and not in the lower coastal areas. So it does, you can kind of see how that ideology would have emerged. They sacrificed primarily young people of high standing, and we know this because of the numerous ice mummies that have been found in this particular area. Some people have suggested that it was a way to pacify gods, particularly when a volcano was getting active. And here you can see, again, still that seated, kind of flexed position. Textiles included, some very important goods through here also. We see craft specialization, of course, with the state-level society this large, we're going to see this. Lots of metalwork. Again, this is stuff that really intrigued the Spanish. Textiles, pottery, and then how they kept track of all this stuff was something called the quipu. So instead of a writing system, they had this system of string. And they used knots. They used the colors, the knot position, knot type, yarn type to differentiate whether it was number of slaves or who was sending what and so forth. They could tell it all through this quipu. Most of the information we have about the quipu comes from an individual whose social position makes it that we have to kind of really question a lot of the stuff he said, but it does seem kind of straightforward with things he said about the quipu. So in 473 BP, the Sapa Inca Huayna Capac dies suddenly in a smallpox epidemic, and no successor is named. So he has two sons, a legitimate son, Huascar, and an illegitimate son, Atahualpa, who is actually older. And these two guys went to war for the throne. So we see a civil war emerge in 473 BP. Now, the Spanish had actually arrived in the area in 468 BP. It took them a little while to get up to the Inca. But when they do, it's just about the same time that Atahualpa defeats Huascar. So Pizarro shows up. He's got a small number of soldiers, about 168, with their horses. And he just happens to kind of have an opportunity to take Atahualpa, who is now the Sapa Inca, capture. And this occurred after a massacre that was ordered by a priest who had been trying to, of course, convert Atahualpa, and who took the Bible and threw it to the ground, and the priest was like, kill them. So there's this huge massacre. Atahualpa is captured. He's kept captive for quite a long time. The Spanish actually eventually catch Huascar also, and they sacrifice him, or they kill him. Atahualpa is then killed around 1532, 1534, somewhere around there. There's differing accounts. And that then, of course, is the end of the Inca Empire. Yes, the Inca had a massive army, but they had no ruler then, really, after Atahualpa was captured and after Huascar was captured and killed. Also with the diseases and so forth, you also had peoples that were helping the Spanish because they didn't want to be under Inca control anymore. So that's kind of a really quick overview to South America. Again, barely scratching the surface. If you want to learn more, check out Bruce Owen's site. It's www.bruceowen.com, who does research down in that area, and there's really some fantastic information about everything up to the Inca. And that is it for our final lecture.